Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. After the incident at the restaurant, Emma tried to shake off the embarrassment, but it stuck with her. The next day, as she stood behind the counter at the cafe, her thoughts kept drifting back to the strange encounter with the man she had mistaken for Kevin. Why had she rushed out like that? What if he hadn't been Kevin? But still, he had seemed so different from the others she usually met. So calm, so easy to talk to. She couldn't help but wonder if their brief connection had been more than just a mistake. She couldn't stop thinking about his eyes, the way he hesitated before speaking, almost like he had something important to say, but didn't. And that smile, faint but real. It was so different from the others she had seen. It felt sincere, like he wanted to connect with her, but for some reason, held back. As the hours passed, Emma tried to push the thoughts away. Her shift was long, and she had enough to worry about, like the stack of bills waiting on her kitchen counter and the dream of opening her art studio that felt more out of reach every day. But no matter how much she tried to focus on the work in front of her, her mind kept returning to that moment in the restaurant. She couldn't help but feel that she had missed something, like there was a chance she'd never get again. The next evening, as the cafe grew quieter and the night settled in, Emma was cleaning up when her phone buzzed. It was a message from Jenny. "So, how was your date with Kevin last night? Bet you had a blast." Emma stared at the text for a moment, a knot forming in her stomach. She hadn't told Jenny about the mix-up, but now Jenny had to know. She didn't know what to say, so she typed back a quick, "It wasn't Kevin. It was a mistake. I ran out of there like an idiot." Her phone buzzed again. This time, it was Jenny's response. "You're not the only one who's confused, are you? Faced with tears of joy, Kevin's not who you think he is, huh? But hey, you'll laugh about it later, trust me. And you might even see him again. Wouldn't that be a funny story?" Emma shook her head, smiling slightly at Jenny's message. But the truth was, she wasn't sure if she would laugh about it. She had a feeling she wouldn't be seeing Kevin, or whoever he was, again. But even as she thought that, something in her wondered if fate was pushing her towards something unexpected. Maybe she didn't need to go looking for opportunities. Maybe they would come to her. As she walked to the bus stop after her shift, she couldn't shake the thought. Was she just fooling herself? Was she hoping for a connection that wasn't even there? She sighed, rubbing her temples. She needed a break from thinking about it all. Then, as if the universe had answered her thoughts, she spotted a familiar face across the street. It was him, Kevin, or the man she thought was Kevin. He was standing near a park bench, looking down at his phone, lost in thought. The cool evening air seemed to add a sense of calm to the scene, but her heart started racing again. Without thinking, Emma crossed the street, unsure of what she was doing. She had no reason to approach him. It wasn't like she knew him, after all, but something pulled her forward. Something more than curiosity. When she was only a few steps away, he looked up, his gaze meeting hers. He looked surprised, then a little nervous, as if he wasn't sure if he should recognize her or not. "Hey," Emma said, her voice unsure but steady. I didn't think I'd see you again." For a moment, he didn't say anything, just stared at her as if weighing his options. Then he smiled faintly, the same small smile from the restaurant. "I didn't expect to see you either," he said, his voice low and thoughtful. There was an awkward pause, but neither of them moved. Emma couldn't help but feel that strange pull again. It was almost as if the universe had dropped them together, not by accident, but by design. She cleared her throat, trying to break the tension. "So what brings you here? Back to the same spot?" she asked. He shrugged, his smile widening slightly. "I guess I like to come here sometimes. Get away from everything. It's quiet. You know." Emma nodded, trying to ignore the flutter in her chest. It was strange. They were complete strangers, and yet, this felt oddly familiar. Like there was something there between them, even if it was just an unspoken connection. "I know what you mean," she said. "I come here sometimes too, to think. It's funny though. I never expected to run into you like this." After last night, she trailed off. He raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued. "After last night?" he asked. Emma hesitated. She wasn't sure why she was being so open with him, but the words seemed to come out before she could stop them. "I was embarrassed. I thought you were someone else. And I ran out of the restaurant without even thinking. It was a dumb mistake. Kevin paused for a moment before shaking his head, his expression softening. You don't have to apologize, he said gently. Honestly, I wasn't sure if I should have told you right away. But then you left so quickly, I didn't know what to do. Emma let out a relieved sigh. She hadn't expected him to be so understanding. I'm glad you get it, she said, smiling slightly. Kevin's eyes softened, and for the first time since their awkward meeting, he seemed completely relaxed. So what are you doing now, he asked. The question caught Emma off guard. It felt like an invitation to continue the conversation, to step into a world that was unfamiliar, but oddly comforting. She shrugged, feeling a little more confident than she had before. I'm just trying to figure things out, she said. Life's been a little crazy lately. Kevin nodded. I get that. Then, after a pause, he added, maybe we could grab coffee sometime and talk. If you want. For a moment, Emma didn't know what to say. Her mind was racing. Was this really happening? Had this meeting, this second chance, somehow turned into something more? Was it just a coffee date? Or was there something else at play here? But before she could ask herself any more questions, she nodded, a smile spreading across her face. Yeah, she said softly. I'd like that. As she stood there, feeling the cool breeze on her face, she realized something. Maybe fate wasn't about waiting for things to happen. Maybe it was about taking chances when they came to you. And right now, this chance felt like something worth taking. It had been a few days since Emma and Kevin had met again by chance. The more she thought about their conversation, the more she felt like there was something between them, something that went beyond just an awkward misunderstanding. They had agreed to meet for coffee, and even though Emma had tried to stay grounded, her mind kept racing with the possibilities. Was it really just coffee, or was something more on the horizon? The truth was, she wasn't sure what she was hoping for. She had been hurt before, let down by dreams that didn't come true, and she had sworn off expecting anything. But with Kevin, something felt different. Something was pulling her in. She arrived early at the cafe, as usual, and sat by the window, watching the world go by outside. The sun was setting, casting a warm golden glow over the street. The little cafe, with its worn wooden floors and cozy booths, felt like a haven to her. Emma couldn't help but feel a little nervous as she looked at the clock. She knew Kevin would be here soon. She hadn't told him much about herself, not really. She realized she had been so focused on the fact that they'd met under strange circumstances that she hadn't stopped to think about what she actually wanted from this encounter. As she took a sip of her coffee, she heard the door swing open. Kevin walked in, looking effortlessly stylish, his usual quiet confidence surrounding him. He caught sight of her immediately, and for the first time, Emma felt like he was looking at her with real interest, not just politeness. He gave her a small wave as he approached the table. Hey, he said, his smile making her stomach flutter. Sorry I'm late. Emma smiled back, trying to act casual. It's fine, she replied. I was early anyway. Kevin sat down across from her, his eyes still holding that quiet intensity. For a moment, neither of them said anything. It felt like the air between them was thick with unspoken words. Emma felt a little self-conscious but pushed the feeling aside. She was tired of being afraid. It was time to take a leap, to stop second-guessing herself. So, I guess we never really talked about what happened that night at the restaurant, Emma said, breaking the silence. Kevin chuckled softly, his gaze softening. No, we didn't, he agreed. I wasn't sure if we should bring it up again. But it's kind of funny, don't you think? Emma nodded, a small laugh escaping her lips. Yeah, it was pretty embarrassing. But I'm glad we're talking now. I guess I was too quick to judge you. I thought you were like all those other guys I've met. Kevin raised an eyebrow, intrigued. What do you mean by that? Emma hesitated for a moment, choosing her words carefully. I don't know. I guess I've had bad experiences in the past. You know, with guys who only care about themselves, or who aren't really there for the right reasons. She paused, feeling the weight of her words. But you're different. You didn't rush to explain yourself or make excuses. You just listened. Kevin looked thoughtful. I'm not the type of guy to rush into things, he said quietly. I think that's why I hesitated when you sat down at my table. I could tell there was something real about you, something that wasn't about pretense or trying to impress anyone. Emma felt a strange flutter in her chest, as if something inside her had shifted. For the first time in a long while, she felt like someone truly saw her, saw the real her. It was a rare feeling, one she hadn't had since her dreams of opening an art studio had seemed possible. They spent the next hour talking, their conversation flowing naturally, almost effortlessly. Kevin shared a little about his work, about how he had built a successful tech company from the ground up, but he didn't brag. He spoke more about the challenges he'd faced, the sacrifices he had to make, and how, despite all the success, there was still something missing in his life. It was the first time Emma saw him as more than just a guy who worked in tech. He was a man who had struggled, who had learned and grown along the way. And that made him feel more real to her. As the evening wore on, Emma realized that the nervousness she had felt earlier was starting to melt away. There was something about Kevin that put her at ease. It wasn't just the way he looked at her or the way he smiled. It was the way he made her feel seen, like her dreams and aspirations mattered. When they stood up to leave, Kevin glanced at her with a thoughtful expression. "You know," he said, "I don't think I've ever had a conversation quite like this before. It's refreshing." Emma smiled, her heart light. "I know what you mean. It feels easy, doesn't it?" Kevin nodded, his eyes lingering on her for a moment longer than she expected. "Yeah, it does. Maybe we can do this again sometime. Not just for coffee. Something more, maybe." Emma's heart skipped a beat. She had no idea what would come next. But right then, she didn't need to know. For the first time in a long time, she felt like she was exactly where she needed to be. She nodded, her voice steady despite the excitement bubbling up inside her. "I'd like that." As they walked out of the cafe together, Emma realized that sometimes you don't need to figure everything out at once. Sometimes, life has a way of bringing the right people into your life when you least expect it. And just maybe, this was one of those moments. Over the next few weeks, Emma found herself meeting Kevin more often. It wasn't just for coffee anymore. They began sharing meals, visiting art galleries, and even spending quiet afternoons in the park. It was becoming routine, but in the best way possible. They had grown comfortable with each other, their conversations deeper than ever, and there was an undeniable chemistry between them that neither could ignore. But as their bond grew stronger, Emma found herself struggling with an internal conflict. She had never been good at opening up to people, especially men, and she feared what might happen if she let herself care too much. Her past had taught her to guard her heart, to protect it from getting broken again. Kevin, on the other hand, seemed to wear his emotions on his sleeve. He wasn't shy about how he felt, often telling her that he looked forward to their time together. Still, Emma noticed a certain distance in him, a quiet sadness that lingered behind his calm demeanor. There were moments when he seemed lost in thought, staring off into the distance as if grappling with something he couldn't quite express. Emma had asked him about it once, but he had simply smiled and brushed it off, saying it was nothing. Still, she couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to him than he was letting on. One evening, as they sat at a small cafe near the edge of the city, Emma noticed that Kevin seemed quieter than usual. His eyes were focused on his coffee cup, his fingers tracing the rim absent-mindedly. It had been a long day, and Emma could tell that something was weighing on him. She decided to ask again. "Kevin," she began, her voice soft but insistent. "You've been quiet all evening. Is everything okay?" He looked up at her, his gaze lingering on her for a moment before he let out a slow breath. "Yeah, I'm fine," he said, his voice low. "It's just work. It's been a bit much lately." Emma raised an eyebrow, unconvinced. "Work? Kevin, you've been saying that a lot recently. It's more than that, isn't it?" Kevin hesitated, his gaze flickering toward the window. The city was alive outside, but inside the cafe, the air between them felt thick with unspoken words. Finally, he spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "I've been feeling lost," he confessed, his words hanging in the air. "I know I'm supposed to be focused on my career, on building the company, but there's something missing. I've been so focused on success, on money, on achieving all these things, but I don't know what it's all for anymore." Emma's heart ached at his words. She had never seen him so vulnerable. She reached across the table, placing her hand gently on his. "Kevin, you don't have to do it all alone. You're not alone. You've got people who care about you." For a brief moment, he looked at her, his expression softening. He didn't pull away, and Emma could feel the weight of his emotions in the silence that followed. She had always known that Kevin was more than just the successful businessman he appeared to be, but hearing him open up like this made her realize just how much he had been carrying on his own. Kevin let out another sigh, his fingers tightening around hers. "I know. he said, his voice cracking slightly. But sometimes, I feel like I'm just chasing something that's always just out of reach. I've built this life, this image, but it doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel like it matters if I don't have someone to share it with. Emma felt a lump form in her throat as she listened to him. She knew that feeling all too well. The feeling of wanting more, but not knowing how to get it. The fear of being stuck, of being trapped in a life that didn't feel like your own. It was a fear she had lived with for years, ever since her dreams had seemed to slip further and further away. Kevin, you matter, Emma said quietly, squeezing his hand. You don't need to have it all figured out. No one does. And you don't have to chase anything anymore. You've already found something real. Kevin's eyes met hers, and for a moment, everything else seemed to fade away. The noise of the cafe, the city outside, all of it disappeared, leaving just the two of them, their shared silence speaking volumes. Slowly, he smiled, a genuine, warm smile that reached his eyes. I think you're right, he said softly. Maybe I've been chasing the wrong things. Maybe what I've been looking for has been right in front of me this whole time. Emma felt a rush of warmth in her chest, a sense of connection that went deeper than anything she had felt before. She had always believed in the power of dreams, but now, she was beginning to understand that sometimes, it wasn't about chasing the dreams, it was about finding the right person to share them with. As the evening drew to a close, they walked out of the cafe together, their steps slow and unhurried. The city lights twinkled in the distance, but for the first time in a long while, Emma didn't feel like she was alone in the crowd. She was walking beside someone who truly understood her, someone who made her feel like she belonged. Kevin's hand brushed against hers as they walked, and this time, she didn't pull away. She let the warmth of his touch seep into her, and for the first time in a long time, she felt like she was exactly where she needed to be. Over the following weeks, Emma and Kevin continued to grow closer, their connection deepening with each passing day. It wasn't just about the coffee dates anymore or the casual walks through the park. They began to share pieces of themselves that they had hidden for so long, revealing their dreams, their insecurities, their fears. Kevin spoke more openly about his struggles with the business world and the pressure to always be on top, while Emma revealed her long-held desire to open an art gallery, a dream that had once seemed so far out of reach. As they shared their stories, they realized they had more in common than they had ever thought possible. But even as they grew closer, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. She had been hurt before, betrayed by people she trusted, and the walls she had built around her heart were still there, though thinner now. She knew that if she let herself fall too deeply for Kevin, she would have to face the fear of losing him, of being left behind once again. Despite the warmth she felt in his presence, the lingering doubts still crept in, making her hesitant to take that next step. One evening, as they walked along the quiet streets of the city, Emma felt that familiar unease settle in her chest. Kevin was walking beside her, his hand brushing against hers, but her mind was elsewhere. She could feel the pull between them, the chemistry, but she wasn't sure if she was ready to fully open up yet. Is everything okay? Kevin's voice broke through her thoughts, his eyes searching hers with concern. You've been a little distant tonight. Emma hesitated, unsure of how to explain the turmoil inside her. She had always been good at hiding her emotions, but something about Kevin's question made her feel like she couldn't keep the walls up anymore. I don't know, she said softly, her voice trailing off. I'm not used to this, to being open with someone. I guess I'm just afraid. Kevin stopped walking, turning to face her. He gently took her hands in his touch reassuring but gentle. Afraid of what? He asked, his voice calm and patient. Emma looked down at their hands, the weight of her words heavy in the air. Afraid of getting hurt again. Afraid of trusting someone, only for them to leave. It's hard for me to believe that something real could come from all of this. Kevin's grip tightened slightly, as if he was trying to reassure her without saying a word. Emma, I'm not going anywhere, he said quietly, his words steady and sincere. I know it's scary, but I'm here. I'm not going to leave. And I'm not asking you to trust me overnight. I just want you to know that I'm not going to let you go. For the first time in weeks, Emma felt her heart open up, just a little. His words, simple yet so full of promise, eased the tension that had been building inside her. She looked up at him, her eyes softening. I want to believe that, she whispered. But it's hard. You're different, Kevin. I know that. and I don't want to mess this up. Kevin smiled, his thumb gently brushing over her hand. You're not going to mess this up, he reassured her. I'm not asking for perfection. I'm just asking for a chance. The words hung in the air between them, and Emma felt a shift inside her. For so long, she had been afraid to let anyone in, but with Kevin, it felt different. He wasn't pushing her to be someone she wasn't. He wasn't demanding anything. He was just there, standing in front of her, offering his heart without hesitation. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The city buzzed around them, but all Emma could hear was the steady beat of her own heart and the soft sound of Kevin's breath. Finally, she nodded, a small but meaningful gesture. Okay, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I'll give it a chance. Kevin's smile widened, and he leaned in to kiss her gently on the forehead, a simple gesture that felt like a promise. They stood there for a while, wrapped in the quiet comfort of each other's presence. Emma knew that the path ahead wasn't going to be easy, but for the first time in a long time, she felt like she was ready to walk it with someone by her side. As they continued walking, hand in hand, Emma realized that trust wasn't something that could be given all at once. It was something that had to be built over time, one small step at a time. And with Kevin, she felt like she was finally taking that first step towards something real. Over the next few weeks, Emma and Kevin's relationship continued to evolve. And though they spent more time together, Emma couldn't ignore the unease that still lingered in her heart. She had opened up to Kevin more than she ever had with anyone else, but a small part of her remained guarded. It wasn't that she didn't trust him. It was just that she had been hurt too many times before, and she wasn't sure if she was ready to fully let go of her past. But every time they were together, the walls around her heart seemed to weaken, and she found herself feeling more vulnerable than she had in years. One evening, as they sat together in the park, watching the sunset, Kevin turned to her with a serious expression on his face. Emma, there's something I need to tell you, he said quietly. His tone was different from usual, and Emma felt a sudden rush of anxiety. Was something wrong? Had he changed his mind about their relationship? She took a deep breath, trying to steady her racing heart. What is it? She asked, her voice soft. She met his eyes, looking for any signs of what he might say next. Kevin hesitated for a moment, clearly choosing his words carefully. I've been thinking a lot about us, he began. About where this is going. And I just want you to know that I'm all in. I don't want to hold back anymore. I want to be with you, Emma. And I want to see where this can go, with no more walls between us. Emma's heart skipped a beat. She had heard the words before, in movies or from friends, but never had they felt so real, so meaningful. She felt a warmth spread through her chest, and for the first time, she realized just how much she wanted the same thing. To take that leap, to finally let go of the past, and allow herself to love fully. Kevin reached for her hand, gently brushing his thumb over her skin. I know it's been hard for you, he continued, his voice tender. But I'm not asking you to forget everything. I'm asking you to trust me, to trust what we have, and to give us both a chance to build something real. Emma felt a rush of emotions. She had spent so much of her life trying to protect herself, keeping everyone at arm's length. But with Kevin, it felt different. She had never felt so seen, so understood. She looked at him, her heart open, and nodded slowly. I want that too, she said, her voice shaky but sincere. I've been scared of getting hurt again. But being with you feels like I'm finally where I'm supposed to be. I want to give this a real chance, Kevin. No more walls. Kevin's smile was gentle, almost relieved, and he pulled her into a soft embrace. Thank you, he whispered, holding her close. I promise I won't let you down. For a moment, they stayed there, wrapped in each other's arms, the world around them fading away. In that quiet, peaceful moment, Emma realized that she had already taken the first step toward healing, toward trusting again. She didn't have all the answers, and she knew there would be challenges ahead, but for the first time in a long while, she felt hopeful about the future. As they pulled apart, Kevin looked at her with a spark of mischief in his eyes. How about we get dinner? He asked, his tone light and playful. I know a place, and I promise it won't be as awkward as last time. Emma laughed, feeling the tension in her chest finally ease. That sounds perfect, she said, smiling up at him. Let's go. As they walked to the car, hand in hand, Emma couldn't help but feel like she was finally ready to embrace whatever came next. With Kevin by her side, she was no longer afraid of what the future held. For the first time in a long time, she felt like she could take on the world. As the weeks went by, Emma and Kevin's relationship continued to deepen. They spent more time together than ever, and each day seemed to bring something new: a shared laugh, a quiet moment of understanding, or a late-night conversation about their dreams and fears. It felt natural, easy, almost like they had known each other for much longer than they really had. Yet, as much as Emma was allowing herself to fall for Kevin, a part of her still struggled with the idea of completely letting go. She had been hurt before, and while Kevin made her feel safe, she couldn't shake the fear of the past repeating itself. One afternoon, as they walked through a park near Emma's apartment, the air crisp with the first hints of fall, Kevin stopped and turned to her with a serious expression. His eyes were soft, but there was a certain weight to his gaze that made Emma's heart race. She knew something was coming. "Emma," Kevin began, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "There's something I need to tell you. I've been thinking about this a lot, and I don't want to hide anything from you. I know we've been taking this slow, and I've been patient, but I need to be honest with you about where I am, where I stand." Emma's stomach flipped, a wave of anxiety washing over her. Was he about to tell her he didn't want to move forward anymore? Was he starting to have second thoughts? She forced herself to stay calm, to listen. Kevin took a deep breath before continuing. "I've been building my life, my career, for so long that I didn't really know what I was missing. But now I realize it's not about all the things I've achieved, it's about who I'm sharing it with. And I want that person to be you, Emma. I want to build something real with you. I know it's scary, but I'm ready for that, if you are." Emma's heart pounded in her chest. She had always been afraid of saying yes to something real, to letting someone in completely. But hearing Kevin say those words, she couldn't ignore the truth she had been avoiding for so long. She wanted that too. She had never felt more ready for something like this. And yet, the fear was still there, buried deep. She took a moment to gather her thoughts, her mind racing. Finally, she looked up at him, meeting his gaze with more certainty than she had felt in weeks. "Kevin," she said softly, "I've been scared. I've been so scared of giving myself fully to someone again. But when you say things like that, it makes me realize that maybe I don't have to be afraid anymore. I want to build something with you too." Kevin smiled, the relief in his eyes clear as he reached out to take her hand. "You don't have to be afraid," he said gently. "I'm not going anywhere. And I know we have a lot to figure out, but I'm willing to do that with you. Together." Emma smiled back, the tension that had gripped her heart easing away. She had always been the one to hold back, to keep her distance. But with Kevin, it felt different. He wasn't asking her to be perfect. He was asking her to be real, to let herself be seen. And for the first time in a long time, Emma was ready to let that happen. As they walked through the park, hand in hand, Emma felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in years. She wasn't alone in this anymore. She had someone by her side, someone who understood her, someone who was willing to take the leap with her. For the first time, Emma wasn't afraid of what the future might bring. She was ready to face it, whatever it was, because she knew she wouldn't have to face it alone. As the months passed, Emma and Kevin's relationship blossomed. They had navigated through the initial awkwardness, the fears, and the doubts, and now, everything felt like it was falling into place. The bond between them grew stronger with each passing day, and for the first time in her life, Emma felt truly at home in someone else's presence. They spent their weekends exploring new parts of the city, attending art exhibitions, and having deep conversations about life and love. Each moment with Kevin was a reminder of how much she had grown, how much she had learned to trust and open her heart again. But even as things seemed perfect, Emma couldn't help but feel a nagging feeling deep inside. She knew Kevin had his own past, his own struggles, and she had yet to learn all there was to know about him. There were times when he seemed distant, moments when he would retreat into his own thoughts, as if he were carrying a weight he wasn't ready to share. Emma had always been the one to keep her walls up, but now she found herself wanting to be the one to break down his. She wanted to know everything about him, to understand the things that made him who he was, even if it meant confronting some painful truths. One evening, as they sat together on the couch in Kevin's apartment, Emma decided it was time to ask him. She had been thinking about it for days, and now, the question was on the tip of her tongue. "Kevin," she began, her voice soft but steady. "Is there something you're not telling me? I feel like there's more to you, something you're not sharing." Kevin's expression shifted, a flicker of hesitation crossing his face. He looked down at his hands, as if gathering his thoughts. Emma's heart raced. She had known this moment would come, but she hadn't expected it to feel this heavy. "I'm not hiding anything from you, Emma," Kevin said quietly, but there was a certain sadness in his voice that made Emma's stomach twist. "It's just, there are things from my past that I'm still trying to come to terms with. I don't want to drag you into it. You don't deserve to carry that weight with me." Emma reached for his hand, squeezing it gently. "Kevin, we've been through a lot together already. You don't have to carry anything alone. I'm here for you, no matter what." Kevin looked at her, his eyes softening, and for a moment, Emma could see the vulnerability he had been hiding. He took a deep breath, as if making a decision. "I know you are," he said quietly. "I just didn't want to burden you with the things that still haunt me. I've been so focused on moving forward, I forgot to deal with the past. There's a part of me that's still afraid of losing everything, of letting myself be vulnerable. I didn't want to risk hurting you." Emma's heart ached as she listened to him. She had always feared that her own scars would keep her from being able to fully trust. But now she understood that Kevin had his own wounds to heal, too. "Kevin, you're not going to hurt me by being honest with me," Emma said softly. "I'm here because I care about you, and I want to be there for you, just like you've been there for me. Whatever your past is, we can face it together." Kevin nodded slowly, his eyes filling with gratitude. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "I've been so afraid to show this side of me, but I think I'm ready to let you in." Emma leaned in, brushing a strand of hair from his face, and kissed him gently on the forehead. "We'll take it one step at a time, Kevin. I'm not going anywhere." As they sat there together, Emma realized that love wasn't just about the happy moments, the laughter, and the shared experiences. It was also about being there for each other in the hardest times, when the walls came down and the truths came to light. And with Kevin, she knew she was finally ready to face whatever came next, side by side. Weeks passed, and with each day, Emma and Kevin's bond grew stronger. They had learned to trust each other completely, embracing the vulnerabilities they had both kept hidden for so long. Their relationship was no longer just a beautiful dream, but a reality they both cherished deeply. They had faced their fears and come out the other side, stronger and more united than ever. Kevin had opened up to her in ways he never thought possible, and Emma had learned to let go of the walls she had built around her heart. Together, they had built something real, something worth holding on to. One evening, as they sat on the rooftop of Kevin's apartment building, watching the sunset over the city, Kevin turned to Emma with a look of deep affection in his eyes. The sky was painted in shades of orange and pink, and the cool breeze carried the scent of the city. It was a perfect moment, one that Emma never wanted to forget. "Emma," Kevin said, his voice soft and steady, "I've been thinking about something. I know we've been through a lot together, and I know we're not perfect, but I don't want to imagine my life without you in it. I'm ready to take the next step, and I want you to be by my side for everything. For all of it. Forever." Emma's heart skipped a beat as she looked into his eyes, her breath caught in her throat. She had known for a long time that Kevin was the one for her, but hearing him say those words made everything feel even more real. "Kevin," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. "I've never felt this way before. I've never been so sure about anything in my life. I want that too. I want to be with you, no matter where life takes us." Kevin smiled, a warmth spreading across his face, and without saying another word, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. He opened it to reveal a beautiful ring, sparkling in the soft light of the setting sun. "Emma," he said, his voice filled with emotion, "will you marry me?" For a moment, Emma was speechless. Her heart raced as she looked at the ring, then back at Kevin. Everything they had been through, every challenge, every moment of doubt, had led to this one question. And in that moment, all she could think of was how much she loved him, how much she wanted to spend the rest of her life with him. "Yes," she said, her voice strong and full of emotion. "Yes, I will marry you." Kevin's smile grew even wider as he slipped the ring onto her finger. They held each other, wrapped in a moment of pure joy, knowing that they had found something rare and precious. They had found each other, and in that moment, nothing else mattered. The future was theirs to build, together. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Emma and Kevin stood on the rooftop, hand in hand, looking out at the world ahead of them. They knew that there would be challenges, But they also knew that as long as they had each other, they could face anything. Together, they had built a love that was strong enough to withstand anything life threw their way. And with that love, they were ready to take on the world.